So in my video on Tarantino, I briefly covered some of the tropes and details surrounding a very popular writing method that is very commonly used in cinema by Tarantino himself and many other filmmakers, the hero's journey story template, a storytelling principle that popularized a very conventional and linear form of storytelling. I also mentioned that it is a formula that is more forgiving to write around, one that tons of action, drama, and fantasy films have emulated. Films I used to throw a bunch of different clips on the screen that loosely related to the idea of the hero's journey, implying that all of these films are the same, with the same characters, same story, same structure. But in essence, I described this idea in a very oversimplified manner, and I did glance over very interesting ideas I initially had with this discussion. In films like The Matrix, Harry Potter, the Star Wars franchise, The Lord of the Rings, and the Lego Movie, there has always been one unanimous thing that these stories have in common that directly ties to the fiction of the hero's journey arc, and that is the idea of the chosen one.
You're the one the prophecy spoke of. You're the special.
Me?
I've seen it, you've seen it, a tale as old as time itself. In these stories, the character is unique and special in some way, and possesses some supernatural gift or insight into the world that separates them from the other. They have been described by prophecy to be a defining and liberating cause in the universe that is oppressed or threatened by a higher power. They are the center of the universe, and the story will usually branch all of its ideas off of this very character, and have supporting characters that fall under the conventions of the hero's journey template: the mentor, the female sidekick, and the oppressive antagonist. But it's also a trope done way too often in stories about unique individuals finding their identities through linear struggles based on a biblical prophecy that only the supernaturally gifted can liberate us from the evils of the universe. But it's precisely within this sense that I want to talk about the Lego Movie, and to some degree Kung Fu Panda, and its unique take on the hero's journey arc related to the chosen one. One of the many reasons stories tend to incorporate a chosen one character is because it provides a very convenient bedrock of character development tied to the very individual protagonist itself. They start out of their element, develop accordingly to previous established criteria and or prophecy, and once they fulfill that destiny, the audience cheers on as if they are being told that any person with superpowers can achieve specialty. And that comfortable crowd-pleasing feeling they get within the character removes the skepticism of what it actually means to be a chosen one. Without them, they are doomed to subjugation by the highest power, all implied in a pessimistic sense. But not all chosen individuals are the same in their stories. And the reason for the character study of Emmet in particular is because he is a very unique version of the chosen one trope that I often feel goes overlooked. But to come to an understanding of Emmet's character, we have to draw every possible comparison to the center and see how these contrasts provide a new definition to the chosen one trope, from every character such as Neo, Harry Potter, Anakin, Katniss Everdeen, Frodo Baggins, and to the similarities of Poe, the Dragon Warrior. In The Matrix, Harry Potter, and Star Wars prequels, the chosen one character presented here can all be described in a unanimous sense as a Messiah, a character pre-established by prophecy as an extraordinary individual who is granted a unique power and one whom a prophecy protects. Something external has made them this way, and history will tell everyone about their influence and how much ass they kick. Neo has a very advanced understanding of the Matrix, which allows him to bend and shape the Matrix according to his will. Harry is supernaturally gifted in the ways of wizardry and Voldemort, and is even immune to his curses, while Anakin is highly force sensitive with a material explanation in the form of midichlorians. It is precisely because of the reasons that they are presented as chosen ones that the plot can only unfold according to what they do with their power. This is definitely the most common archetype present in these stories, but it's all too conventional of an approach to this trope. That's not to say that films that have it are bad in this sense. I mean, The Matrix, in my opinion, is the film that perfected this archetype, even compared to common standards. A second and less common archetype of the chosen one trope is the collectively elected. A character who is chosen by the people they influence. courtesy of characters such as Katniss Everdeen in The Hunger Games and Frodo from the Lord of the Rings films. In these stories, the characters aren't chosen in the conventional sense, such as a messiah, but the way the side characters treat them make them feel as if they might as well be a chosen one. And all because they are able to do the very things that exalt them as being unique. Not because of any external source that grants them power, but because of their ideological acts of influence that enable them to do the plot of the story. In The Hunger Games, Katniss inspires revolutionary mindsets in her fellow districts, causing them to push against the capital, which leads to everyone praising her and claiming her the Mockingjay, a liberator of the oppressed. And in The Lord of the Rings, Frodo volunteers to carry the Ring of Power across Middle-earth to destroy it in Mount Doom, leading to all of the supporting characters blessing and praising him with their arms as if he were a chosen one for the ring. However, as I said before, the biggest difference between the elected one and the Messiah is the implementation of a prophecy. In Messiah stories, the given prophecy will always in some way tie back to the history and naturalia of the protagonist that will make them feel exclusive to the role of the chosen one. A prophecy will foretell the great acts that these characters will do to change the universe. They can become the chosen one even before they hear of it. Neo, Harry, and Anakin in a Messiah story are all absolute in this way. In contrast, stories of collectively chosen characters don't have prophecies in any way. In The Hunger Games, there is no prophecy that states that a tribute from a lower district would one day free the lower half of the society they live in. And in The Lord of the Rings, there is no prophecy that states that a certain pure-hearted being would one day venture forth to Mount Doom to destroy the Ring of Power. Elected individuals are special because the people surrounding them agree that they are special. It's a less common archetype, but it seeks to make a statement on the idea that a chosen one can not only be prophesized, but literally chosen in a democratic sense. And so far, I've only seen audiences notice this trope in these two ways. However, there is a third archetype associated with this trope that I want to add to the discussion, and that is the idea of the outsider. In films like Kung Fu Panda and the Lego Movie, there is a very curious way that these characters become the chosen one, and most importantly, why they end up as such. They are special because they are the opposite of special. Characters who live in a society where they feel often as outsiders. Now, the reason I refer to them as outsiders and not outcasts is because even though their position in society is unnatural, they are still a part of their society. So you could describe a character like Shrek as an outcast because he literally alienates the people around him and is excluded entirely. But in Kung Fu Panda, Po is just frowned upon by others but not excluded. And Emmet, well, we'll get to him. But the biggest contrast I noticed in stories about outsiders who are chosen is how they implement a written prophecy. Because even though stories about elected individuals don't have prophecies, stories about outsiders do have. In both the Lego Movie and Kung Fu Panda, their prophecies are foretold not by history or destiny, but by the older aging mentor figures who write them into the conventions of the chosen Messiah. But even though both Messiah and outsider stories have prophecies written into them, they differ on many ways. The first one is mechanism of selection, how they become the chosen one. In Messiah stories, the character becomes the chosen one when they are revealed to the world. When Morpheus discovers Neo, when Harry is welcomed to Hogwarts, and when Qui-Gon discovers Anakin. In outsider stories, the protagonists become the chosen one entirely by accident. Emmet clumsily falls into the crevices that house the piece of resistance, and Po literally falls out of the big blue sky in front of Oogway to become the Dragon Warrior. Their timing in these stories could not be any more coincidental and accidental.
There are no accidents.
Sorry, Oogway. And another similarity that I noticed between these films that separate them is the idea of the collapsed prophecy. In both Kung Fu Panda and the Lego Movie, before they become the chosen one, their perception of the prophecy they are tied to completely falls apart. The second way they differ is how the characters perceive them as the chosen one. Almost every character in The Matrix and Harry Potter treat their chosen ones with an immense sense of awe and amazement, even before they do the work. But in outsider stories, even though the mentor figures of these characters see them as the chosen one, almost every other character does not. Shifu, the Furious Five, Wildstyle, and the Council of the Master Builders practically despise them because of number 3. their external qualities, and also how they differ from the prophecy. Unlike Neo, Harry, and Anakin, there is nothing special about Emmet and Poe. In Messiah stories, the prophecy is usually there to give a sense of all power to the figure of the character. But with Emmet and Poe, the prophecy is there to put their external abilities and character under the microscope by others. Emmet is not a master builder, constantly frowned upon by Wildstyle, and he has no ideas of his own and only seems to follow others. And Poe is not a master of kung fu. He is overweight, unfit, and gluttonous, and both are childish, naive, and overly optimistic in how they treat their status as a chosen one. And it is, as I've said before, why the characters despise them in the story, because they see them as a mockery of the prophecy they respect. But what I find most interesting in these stories is it's because of their unspecial natures that they eventually evolve towards the standards of the prophecy that describes them to be. In Kung Fu Panda, Poe's weight and glutton is naturally the thing that prevents him from keeping up with Shifu and the Furious Five. But in the climax, he manages to defeat Tai Lung by using his love for food and immense body as a tool to fight. He becomes the Dragon Warrior not by lifting weights or reaching level 100 or level 0.
No, there is no such thing as level 0.
But by mastering his own self. After all, Shifu said it himself.
I'm not trying to turn you into me. I'm trying to turn you into you.
Now, even though Kung Fu Panda did this first and very effectively, the Lego Movie, however, takes this a step further by literally tying Emmet's outstanding characteristics into the thematic arc of the film in general, as a mean to articulating his transformation into the Chosen One. Now, as I've said before, unlike every Chosen One that came before, there is nothing inherently special about Emmet. He is not destined for greatness, he does not have any ideas of his own, and it makes him completely unfit to be a master builder. He's essentially an empty husk of a character. It's even biased in his character design. He is a yellow-faced, two-dotted, smiley-faced extrovert wearing an orange and blue construction vest, working as a construction worker in a world entirely composed of a brick system designed for building. Can you get any more generic than that? And it is precisely because of the way he is characterized as a nobody that makes him feel so unique, and why our reaction towards him the moment he comes on screen is so bizarre. Emmet's character introduction in the form of a straight 7-minute long day in the life sequence is one of the most brilliant forms of character establishment I've ever seen. He is shown to be a very optimistic person in the world he lives in, as he enjoys a generic show, generic neighbors, and a generically fitting song. Yes, this song can be a little annoying, but in the context of Emmet's character, it makes perfect sense. Emmet's entire introduction is meant to be viewed as a control group of ideas that relate back to the film's main theme present, that of the concept of conformity. Conformity is the behavior of one to adhere to social standards and norms in order to fit in. Emmet is shown as a pure definition of someone who finds his identity by conforming. On the other hand, of the same body, President Business, who is the supposed antagonist and villain of the Lego Movie, is presented to also be obsessed with this order. However, he articulates it in a very different way. He uses robot servants who are programmed with this will and fixed directives, and he incorporates borders in the Lego world and is sort of a darker reflection of Emmet, having to wear a suit and tie, the very type of people that govern construction workers and citizens, all in order to establish his more generic approach that singles him as a businessman. I mean, business is literally in his name.
It's just business. Lord business.
But what I find so brilliant about the Lego Movie is that it's not just about what it says about conformity, but what it says about it through the lens of Lego. Conformity is literally built within the mechanics of Lego. Those who conform do so by following instructions from a page printed as Lego instruction books. They use accurate terminologies and building methods with bricks, and conformity is broken when master builders literally bend the bricks of the world to their designs. This movie is so fluent in this language that it's kind of unnatural, and most importantly, the writers use these conventions of conformity and Lego to articulate Emmet's character arc. There is a singular line from the film that basically summarizes the latter. It is this one.
Your mind is already so prodigiously empty. With proper training, you could become a great master builder.
I feel like this line is trying to make a statement on how we view potential of talent and skill in others. That even the most simple-minded and blank canvas beings in the world can possess the potential to become the special. Emmet is seen this way by everyone.
You know, he's just sort of a little bit of a blank slate, I guess.
But it is exactly because of how strict Emmet fits into the roles of conformity that he is programmed in a way where his mind is so unpopulated due to the lack of ideas courtesy of conformity that his cognitive ability to develop skills is nearly at infinite potential. And it is precisely in this way that he becomes the special and why he feels so unique compared to the others. The only thing he has to do to achieve that potential is to, well, believe. And when I watch the Lego movie in this way, I'm always in constant awe of how Lord and Miller have pulled this character archetype off. It is hard to write characters this way because of how much it stands against the tropes of the chosen one. It's easy to write gods as chosen ones. It's hard to dramatize the unspecial. And these guys have been on a roll in this regard for years. They made another film with this trope without the term chosen one tied to their name. And man, I do want more stories like this. Thanks so much for watching. Please leave a comment down below on what you all think about this, as this is a discussion I really want to expand to a wider audience. And do consider subscribing if you want to see more.